Hello everyone, welcome back to the How to FPV series, which is where I teach you how to fly a first-person view drone in short, easy-to-digest episodes. So this is episode 3 where we are going to learn how to fly FPV, first-person view. So we're finally going to look through the camera on the drone and fly as if we're in the cockpit, which is really exciting. It's the whole reason why you're watching this series. But before you learn how to fly FPV, make sure you know how to fly line of sight with your eyeballs, which was the topic of the previous episode, episode 2. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get in the air. Before we get off the ground, I want to have a brief discussion about cameras, specifically camera angle. So camera angle dictates basically how fast you're going to end up flying. So I'm going to pick up the quad here so you guys can see. If you have zero camera angle, when you're in a hover, you will basically see half ground, half sky. And a lot of pilots actually tilt the camera upwards so that they can actually see more when they're flying forward. Because when you're flying forward, the quad is pitched down, so you may end up looking at the ground, but you can actually tilt the camera upwards so that you see more of the sky and you can actually see more of where you're going. For a beginner, I would probably recommend maybe between 0 and 10 degrees of camera angle, and that way you won't end up going too fast. But as you get better, you can keep upping the camera angle to a level you're comfortable with. Some people argue just go straight to something pretty high like 30 or 45 degrees, but in my opinion, that's a little too much because when you're trying to fly slow, you'll just end up looking at the sky, and it's very hard to tell what is happening through the goggles if you're looking mostly at the sky. So I'd say between 0 and 10 degrees. Now the GoPro you're looking through right now is around 20 degrees, so keep that in mind. I might be flying a little bit faster or looking at more sky compared to what you may be seeing. So that out of the way, let's go ahead and learn how to fly FPV. In my opinion, hovering is really hard through the goggles, so in my opinion, I think just going straight into forward flight is the best move. So we're going to arm, advance the throttle, and then immediately pitch forward just a little bit just to get us going. And you can take a look at the horizon and you can see we're actually tilting to the right. So we're going to correct for that and tilt to the left. Actually got to pitch back also so we don't hit these trees. And then kind of reset ourselves here. And then pitch back forward to go into forward flight. And to turn is just like line of sight. Put both sticks in the same direction. And just like with line of sight, you tend to pick up speed turning, so you actually need to pitch back some so you don't fly too fast. And then we'll level ourselves out here and then go for another left turn. Both sticks in the same direction. And then level ourselves out with the roll on the right stick. And to regulate your speed, you're going to basically use the pitch. So we're going at, some speed right now, but if we pitch backwards, we're actually going to slow down and ascend. So when you pitch back, you actually need to add less throttle, and when you pitch forward, you need to add more throttle. So if I pitch forward here, we're actually going to start dropping. I have to add more throttle to stop that. And then turn right, both sticks in the same direction, and pitch back a little bit to control our speed. And then we'll go into a left turn, both sticks in the same direction. Now obviously I have a lot of experience, so my turns are pretty much perfect. But you might not have the same experience. So say we roll too much, now we're flying sideways. So it's actually best to just yaw into the direction that you end up drifting, and then you'll be back into forward flight to kind of reset yourself. So once again, we're not adding enough yaw. Now we're going sideways. What do? I can't see where I'm going. Just yaw in the direction that you're drifting. All of a sudden you can see where you're going again. So that can prevent a lot of panic moments if you remember that. So if you start drifting in any direction, it can even be backwards, right? We start going backwards, just yaw in the direction that we're drifting, do a 180. All of a sudden we can see where we're going. And now we're way too high. We're going to drop the throttle. And generally, just like with line of sight, you don't want to fly too high, because if you get into a pickle, you don't want to crash from a high height. And judging height's really hard to do with the goggles on, but as you can see, if I fly really low, the ground looks like it's going faster. And then if I get higher, it looks like it's going slower. So that's one way to tell. The other way to tell is when you hit the ground, inevitably. Just, you know, it happens. If you're a beginner, you're definitely going to hit the ground. Oh, I hit the ground. So that's how you know when you're at ground level. You just boink against the ground, no big deal. And that's how you can start to learn how high you're at. Another thing that's helpful for judging your speed is looking at the edges of your view. So, like, because we're going forwards, if we look at the horizon, it's hard to tell we're going forwards, but we look at the bottom of the camera view, that's where a lot of the movement's happening. So that's how we can really tell we're going forwards, because that ground is rushing beneath the camera at the bottom of the view. I'm going to turn right here. I wouldn't recommend going through such a small space. So, bad example there. And looking at the camera view again, if we're drifting one way, you can see now the right, oh! If we bank to the right, you can see that the ground at the right of the camera is moving very fast. It's kind of how you can tell you're drifting that way. And we're about to be in a pickle, so just yaw towards that direction and then turn away from the playground. So that's pretty much it. To control your speed, you use the pitch. When you pitch forward, you need more throttle. When you pitch back, you need less throttle. To turn, both sticks in the same direction at the same time, and usually a little bit of pitch back to slow yourself down. And if you start drifting any which way, just yaw in the direction you're drifting to resume forward flight. So those are the basics of how to fly FPV. Now, to land, arguably the hardest part. Try to get yourself going real slow, right, with pitching back and lowering the throttle. And then, before you hit the ground, just disarm. And that makes for the least violent landing possible. Alright, that is it for this episode of How to FPV. In the next episode, we are going to start learning how to fly more precisely and start flying through tight gaps, which is going to segue us into learning some aerobatics. If you enjoyed this video or learned something from it, make sure to like the video and please subscribe to the channel. And if you got value out of this video or you're using an ad blocker, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Link to the Patreon along with my Discord server and Instagram page are in the description below. Thanks for watching.